Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is Madiha Saghir from Department of Zoology, Bank Road Campus, University of Education, Lahore. So, students, today we're gonna talk about species concept. Okay, first of all, let's have the introduction of our today's topic. As you know that species is one of the very important taxonomical category, and whenever we got a specimen, and first of all we like to classify into its, or we like to identify its species, to which species does it belong. So it is one of the important category, and but there are many different concepts, there are many different definitions of the species that have been given by many different biologists so far. It's not like that we just focus on a single concept of the species, but what we do, there are many earlier or ancient species concept that have been rejected or discarded by the biologist, but at the today we are focusing on the more than one concept of the species. It depends that what kind of organism do we have. If we are working on some kind of extant or living organisms, then usually we do follow the biological species concept. If we are working on fossils, then we follow some other concept of the species. So there are different concepts have been given by the different biologists to strict to a particular certain definition or certain concept of the species very difficult. So uncertainty still persists even today. So let's read it first. The term species frequently used to designate a class of similar things to which a name has been attached. Right? So species is the most important category in the taxonomic hierarchy. To define a species has been one of the major problems of the taxonomist. Obviously, first what we have to identify the organism at the species level. Once we have gotten the its species, then we have identified the species, then we can further classify it into different orders, families, phylum, etc, etc, right? So the species is one of the major important and one of the basic category in taxonomy or in while classifying the organisms. Various definitions have been put forward by various workers, but uncertainties still persist. There are various definitions, various concepts of the species, that what points should be focused while identifying the species. Different views of the different people, of the different biologists, but still we have the uncertainty. Still we don't have any particular fixed one concept or one definition that we have to follow for all kinds of the organisms, either they are extant, either they are extinct. Okay, types of the species concept. The basic definition that was given by the George Cuvier in 1829 was that the assemblage descendant from one another or from common parents and of those who resemble one another. This was the definition that was given by the French zoologist. He was also a naturalist, he was a paleontologist, Cuvier, and he gave this definition on which the modern concepts of the species has been developed, that it is the assemblage descendant from one another and from the single parents, common parents, and who resemble morphologically to one another. This what is known as the species according to the Cuvier. But there are different concepts have been given by different biologists. We are going to talk about all these one by one. First one is typological species concept. You may call it as a typological species concept. Second is nominalistic species concept. Third one is biological species concept. Fourth is the phenetic species concept. Fifth is evolutionary species concept, and sixth one is the phylogenetic species concept. So there are the number of concepts. actually there are not only the 6 concepts, there are a lot of concepts of the species, but we are focusing on the main or major 6 concepts of the species, right? Okay, very first kind of the concept of the species concept is the typological species concept. Why it is called typological species concept? Because it is based on the concept that species are nothing more than the types or kinds of different animals and plants. It emphasizes on the morphological similarities. It emphasizes on the concept that the species are the group of organisms or the different types of animals and plants have been grouped according to the or on the basis of their morphological similarities, how much they have the similar characters, they have the how much they are apparently look similar. If 2 organisms are apparently similar, then according to this concept they belong to the same kind of the species or same species. So other names of typological species concept is the morphological species concept. It is morphological species concept. Why? Because it is based on the morphological similarities and dissimilarities. It defines the species on the basis of their apparently similar characteristics. And it is also known as the essentialistic species concept. Why essentialistic species concept? Because it recognizes the species on the basis of their essential characters, essential morphological characters. Morphology is what? Morphology is the external appearance, external characteristics of an individual, of an organism. So let's read it. Typological species concept emphasize on the morphological similarities. This species concept was the concept of Linnaeus and his followers. You know that Linnaeus was a Spanish botanist. He was a taxonomist. He was a zoologist. Carl Linnaeus, also considered as the father of the taxonomy. He was the first who gave the binomial nomenclature. And you know that this is the methodology of naming the organisms by giving them the 2 names. So this species concept was a concept of Linnaeus and his followers. Until we understood evolution, species could be thought of simply as different types of animals and plants. It was that time when evolution was not completely understood, that what evolution is. There any kind of species have gone through the different kind of changes with the passage of time. So at that time, before the understanding of the evolution, species were considered as simply the types of different animals and plants. If in very simple way I would try to explain you that what are the basis of this concept, that they consider that if we take animals, then they consider that dogs, suppose all dogs belong to the same species, because this is a one type of the animal. All elephant belong to the same species because this is another type of the animal. Because apparently there are many similar characters of different dogs, but they are morphologically similar. That's why this concept grouped them all the single type of the animals into the same species, into the same group of the species. So if 2 individuals are morphologically different, then they belong to different species. They think this concept think that if 2 animals are not similar in their appearance, if they are very different from each other, then it means that it belongs to different species. So if we come to the proper definition of the typological or typological species concept, then we could say that species can be recognized by their essential characters, by their important essential characters, then these are expressed in their morphology. These characters should be expressed in their external structures. So that's why this concept has the 3 names. One is the typological species concept, other is the morphological species concept, and third one is the essentialistic species concept. Because it depends on the morphology, that's why it is known as the morphological species concept, because it takes the organism as the types, different types as a type. That's why it is known as the typological species concept, because it depends on the essential and important morphological characters. That's why it is known as the essentialistic species concept, right? Okay, if we divide this topological species concept into postulates, into different points, then it has three important postulates. Number one is the species consist of similar individuals. As I told you in previous slides that this type of concept is based on the similarity in the morphology. So it says that each species consists of the similar type of the individuals that look similar, right? Second one is each species is separated from all other by sharp discontinuity. It says that one group of the species is quite different to the other group of the species because it based on the type. If again I took the same example, if there is a dog population, then this dog population is a one kind of the species, so it is quite different from the other species that is the other type of the animal. Suppose that is a cat, so there is a sharp discontinuity. In other words, you may say that there is a sharp difference in two species, right? Each species constant through time. Well, this concept does not take the concept of the evolution in it, so it says that the species remain constant through time. It never ever change, or environmental factors does not affect or does not create any change in the species. So species remain the same throughout the time. This concept got many criticism, and it was still we use this type of the concept, essentialistic concept or typological concept, while classifying or while making the species of the asexually reproducing organisms. In that kind we use this morphological concept. Otherwise for sexual organism it couldn't be used for the formation or classification of the species or for defining the species of an organism. So it got many criticism. Number one, individuals are frequently found in nature that are clearly conspecific with other individuals. In nature, if we see the individuals, then they are clearly conspecific. They look conspecific, means that they look that they are belongs to the same species or belongs to the same group, but in spite of their differences, but they do have the differences. That is due to either this difference. There are as we also already talked in the topic of the variations, that every population has the variation. Every population has the polymorphism. Polymorphism is what there is a large number of differences present in the individuals of the same species or same population. And sexual dimorphism means that organisms that belongs to the same kind or same type, but still they are apparently different because of their gender. In some cases, male is always different from the female, female is different from the male, and age difference is also there. If we take an example, any individual at different stages of their life show different morphology. Toddler is different from the baby, baby is different from the adult, adult is different from the kid, right? So neither in humans, even in all other organisms, individuals show different morphology at the different stage of their life. So this concept, the typological species concept, does not include all these variations in this definition of the species. That's why it got rejected on the basis of this criticism. And second one, it is equally helpless in case of so-called sibling species. You know what sibling species are? Sibling species are those species that are morphological quite identical, quite similar, and they have no morphological differences, but still what they are genetically different species, they cannot interbreed. So this kind of the concept of the species is quite helpless in classifying the sibling species. It takes all the sibling species into the same species, same group of the species. Why? Because it is based on just on the morphology of an organisms. It does not take into account the other variations. It is, let's read it. It is second point of the criticism. It is equally helpless in case of so-called sibling species, that is perfectly good genetic species, but lacking conspicuous morphological differences, right? they conspicuous mean that obvious morphological differences. They lack the differences. They are look alike to each other. They don't have morphological differences. In fact, they have they are morphological similar species, sibling species. Okay, second kind of the species concept is the nominalistic species concept. This concept was very popular in France in 18th century, and still it is used by some botanists. Some botanists really use still this concept while classifying the uh, plant individuals or different kinds of plants. This concept is based on the philosophy that species is nothing else. It's just we humans made the word species. Why? Because we want to group the individuals in particular category. So according to the nominalistic concept, there is no need to group the individuals, because nature has created the individuals. So we also don't need to group them. We just take the individual as an individual. There is no need to group them on either of the basis, either of the similarity basis or the differences basis. So there is no need to grouping. Individuals should be taken as an individual. Let's read it. They believe that only individuals exist while species are man's own creation. If you want to have the proper kind of definition of this concept, then we would say that nature produces only individuals and nothing more. They are mental concepts that have been created to refer the great number of individuals collectively. So nominalistic concept says that it is just we are of mind that we are trying to just refer the individuals collectively. If we want to refer the individuals collectively, that's why we make the species concept. So there is no species, there is just an individual. So we take the individual as an individual. We don't need to combine one individual into particular category, into particular group. Okay, what are the criticism that this concept got? There are several criticism, as you know, that this is a very weird kind of philosophy of that only individuals exist and species are man-made. So that's why this concept got too many criticisms. Number one is no biologist can agree that species is man-made. Of course, no biologist could agree on this point. Species could never ever be man-made. How could be the man-made? The variations are present in the individuals in the population by nature. Nature creates the variation, and that's why the biologists group them the individuals into different groups. Second one, it is now an established fact that they are the product of the evolution. Now, as we have the ample knowledge of the evolution, after enormous research on the evolution, on the changes that through which the individuals have gone through with the passage of time in response to the environmental factor and selection pressures. So now we know that what are the variations or what are the species present today. They are actually the result of the evolution. They are actually the product of the evolution. So variations before, let's suppose before the evolution, there was a single kind of individuals present in the population, but with the passage of time, because of the evolution, because of the changes, because of the change environmental factors, variation becomes prominent in the individuals, and that fittest variation got selected by the nature, and that have been then transferred to the progeny. So these are the species today we have are the product of the evolution. The basic drawback of the concept was a misinterpretation of the relation between similarity and the relationship. And this concept actually misunderstood the concept of the species. This concept is the philosophy that it does not understood completely that it's not like the relationship between the similarity that biologists group the organisms collectively, just they want to make the group. This concept think that they just want to make the groups of the similar objects or similar individuals. So this concept actually misunderstood the relationship of similarity and the relation between the relationship and the similarity. These things are the similar objects have been collected into the same group, just not because of the similarity, but there are many other things to be considered, like genetics, like other factors. So this was a basic drawback, and members of the species are similar to each other because of the common descent. As we know that members of the species, why they are similar, they are not similar that they look similar, they are similar because they have the common descent. Common descent means that they have the same ancestors, they have the same parents, that's why they have the similarities. That's why they have been grouped into different groups, into different categories. It is not true that they belong to this taxon because they are similar as claimed by this concept. This concept claimed that people used to group the individuals because of just because they look the similar. No, just not because they look the similar, but species have been grouped. Why? Because of the common descent, because of the evolution. So this concept is based on many misunderstandings. That's why this concept was rejected, or this philosophy was rejected, that nature just produce individuals and not species. Species have been produced by the nature, but actually they are the product of the evolution. Okay, students, today we have talked about the two earlier concepts of the species, and in our other part of the lecture we're going to talk about the rest of the concepts of the species. Till then, please take care of yourselves and your surrounding ones, and have a nice day. Thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.